And
We're stockholders now.
yeah,
More so now than ever, you know, when you were there, you know.
oh yeah,
We're all stockholders in a 401k plan that the membership, I don't know how much actually has, but I know I got a lot of shares of stock, so I want to see the company do well too. And like you always said, I remember when we come strike time, you always said, guys said, let's bust them, and you said, no, let's don't bust them. We just want our fair share.
that's right.
We don't want to bust them. We want them to be profitable too. We just want our fair share.
Want to keep the job and just let them make a profit so we can share part of it.
That's amen to that.
That's what I used to tell them, you know. I can remember one time we used to go down to Indianapolis, bargain for a contract. John Jones and all of them was on the bargaining team. And people blame high prices and wages on union leaders. And I can remember Jim Merritt and I come back from Indianapolis and I said, Jim, I said, this is the best contract we ever had. I mean, back then, I hired in for $21 a week. And we got a 50-cent raise. And half of the benefits paid for and everything. And you know, we got back home, and there was people at the meeting shouted they wanted $1. 50 cents. But you talking when you're talking about a $50 week raise or pay rule, and you get a 50%, 50 cents an hour raise, that's a big raise. And they wasn't happy with it. So everybody has to share part of the blame in today's problem. Everybody. Nobody can shirk his duty now. And this is going to be tough. This is a lot tougher than I think people think it is.
What was the 63 strike like?
It was mean. It was tough. Because we all was young and families and paying on houses and cars.
He was out to break you, wasn't he?
Yeah. And they hung on for 8 weeks. And I remember getting a letter from the president of the company. He's asking you to surrender, in other words, you know, come back to work. I wrote across the top of it, I'll never come back to work until we get it settled and send it back to Indianapolis. But that's the way most people felt back then. I mean, they went out there to win, and we stayed 8 weeks. And it got tough because you had payments to make, groceries to buy, and we done everything. We dig ditches, paint houses, anything to stay afloat. But we wasn't ever going back.
No one crossed, did you?
No one crossed. Oh yeah, there was two. There was two. You remember who they were? I wouldn't mention them.
No, I was 10 years old. I was in 4th grade.
Well, I mean, I thought maybe you'd heard us tell about it.
No, you know I don't. I remember we had a couple in 83 that did.
We had a couple.
And in 89, we was out 3 weeks and no one did. So.
But you know, I remember one time the one that did cross the picket line, he was riding with the foreman line truck. And I took off and followed him one morning. And I followed him all day. I got down to where I was running out of gas and I put in 50 cents worth and I took after him again. And I never let him work all day, but I never touched him or did another thing. And I had my camera and I'd take a picture of him every once in a while. But that's the way I fought back to those guys. That was one of our employees and the boss. But we done a little roughhouse stuff back then you can't do now. You know, you didn't have to really hit the boss, you just had to convince him that you're going to. And we got a lot of things done. But
what do you think it would have been like to work for the phone company if you wouldn't have had a union?
it would have been awful because actually, you know, when you're going to have a relationship of any kind, you've got to be honest with each other. And the telephone company, I can remember back in '53 and back in there, we had some of our contract settlements. And they put out that paper. I don't know whether you still get a newsletter or anything.
No, not anymore. We
used to get that. And they'd start for contract time and it was just all propaganda. I can remember when AT&T said they had a poor year and it was going to have an awful hard time in making the budget. They made a bigger profit that year than they'd ever made in history.
Sounds familiar.
That's what they say, see. That's just what they done. They're still doing that today.
Amen.
Yeah, yeah. So I remember that clearly. the biggest profit they ever made in history, and that was the year they was about to go under.